Stick around for the rest of this video, we have a lot to show you after these messages. This video is sponsored by War Planet Online, a massive multiplayer online strategy game available on mobile platforms as well as PC and Mac. In War Planet Online, you can launch a global warfare assault strategy, using real-time strategy to command and conquer. Adapt your tactics, recruit commanders, and order your army to battle in combat against both players online and AI troops. War is always evolving. You can also build your own custom base to survive your enemy's assault and stockpile troops, tanks, and helicopters, and conquer key cities like New York, Paris, Moscow, and Tokyo. Play with players from around the world who can either become members of your alliance and help you conquer nations, or become your next targets. My favorite thing about the game is just how massive these battles can get, making this truly feel like a global conflict. There's so much action to keep track of all at once. And a classic cinematic action hero is joining the fray. From First Blood, one of my favorite classic action films, John Rambo is joining WPO on a special mission to guide the players through the secrets of warfare, lead the way through the First Blood chain event operation, and help the players become a one-man army. For a limited time, Rambo will create a truly captivating and explosive experience for all players. And it gets even better, as the first 40 players who download the game now and reach level 10 before November 10th will win a $100 Amazon e-gift card. Expect the winners to be announced on November 25th and contacted in-game additionally. There has never been a better time to download the game. Just click on my link in the description or scan the QR code in the corner and you'll get 4,000 army units, T1, and 4,000 medals for an even bigger head start in the game. What's more, you can benefit from the Great Rambo event. See you there! Now back to the video. Are you afraid I'm going to turn into some kind of criminal? Quit worrying about me, okay? Something's different. I'll figure it out. Stop lecturing me, please.
I don't mean to lecture and I don't mean to preach. And I know I'm not your father.
Then stop pretending to be. Oh, hey, we're here! I love going to a cabin in the woods to spend time with my totally platonic male friends. Platonic friends. It'd be nice to have a vacation after all that questionably canon alien and predator business. Just me, my buddies, and my own two hands. I even brought my socially anxious sister for some reason.
Did James and Maddie say if they can make it? They said they were having car trouble.
I don't know, they were saying something.
That was almost as bad as the automatic doors at S-Mart. Those things close with some force.
Hey, check it out. This book looks like somebody melted SpongeBob in the microwave. What the fuck? Who threw this?
I don't know. I bet it looked really sick though.
How does one describe Evil Dead to someone that's never seen it? Alright, imagine The Exorcist. Scary, demon-possessed girl beating up her mom and levitating furniture and shouting foul language. Now imagine that instead of a nervous priest reciting Bible passages to defeat the evil presence before him, it's just a really handsome dumb guy slashing the demon to pieces with a chainsaw and then saying a snappy action movie one-liner. That sounds like easily the coolest thing ever, obviously, and I'm a huge fan of the franchise. From 4 movies to a TV show and hundreds of comics, Evil Dead is the ongoing adventures of Ash Williams, a bumbling, hard-headed grocery store employee who finds himself wrapped up in a battle of good versus evil and the fate of the world, even though he just wants to go home. It's sort of like turning the Chosen One narrative on its head by asking, what if the Chosen One was kind of a dick? A lovable one, but still just an amazing train wreck of a man. And with such a unique and well-loved character, with such a spectacularly original way of facing off against the forces of evil, fans of the series have always wanted to know what it was like to simulate being in Ash's blood-soaked shoes for a day, and taking a chainsaw hand to a horde of Deadites themselves. As such, there have been 4-ish attempts in the last 25 years to create an Evil Dead video game. Give or take a few weird side ventures that have varying levels of entertainment value. Now that we're locked away in a spooky cabin in the woods with nothing to do but test them out, let's dig into what makes a good Evil Dead game and how close any of these came to bringing the king to consoles. Much like the movie franchise they're based on, Evil Dead video games came from humble beginnings, starting with The Evil Dead for the Commodore 64. This adaptation of the first movie has you take control of Ash inside a crude recreation of the cabin from a top-down perspective as you fight off mutants. Mutants? Alright, to be fair, they never actually said the word Deadite in the first movie. In fact, that word isn't dropped until the very end of Evil Dead 2.
Hail he who has come from the skies to deliver us from the terrors of the Deadites!
I probably would have gone with, like, the possessed, or zombies, or demons, or anything before mutants. The gameplay here is pretty simple. Your goal is to rack up enough points to spawn the Book of the Dead and throw it into the fireplace. You can pick up weapons throughout the cabin to dismember the evil mutants. Their lopped off body parts can still actually chase you around. That's pretty cool for the time. There are some defensive strategies you can take, namely closing off the windows and the front door to prevent the evil force from making its way into the cabin. A gameplay mechanic I can only imagine was a massive pain in the ass is how this game's health system works. Mind you, I've never played this myself, but from looking at it, literally everything you do consumes from your energy counter. Even something as simple as walking around. Imagine being just a few points away from beating the game only to die by taking a step. Shout out to Bruce Campbell giving the player a tutorial way back in 1984 though. Even if it is in a very indirect manner, I can almost hear his snark in this pixelated text.
In case you haven't realized, you're looking at me from above.
It's always cool coming back to these really early games, and seeing how they convey story and plot points and ideas from the movie in a very interpretive and basic way, because they had such limited gameplay mechanics and graphics to work with back then. You gotta love how all 3 of these games triumphantly announce Bruce Campbell doing the voice on the back covers. They had their priorities straight. First up is Evil Dead Hail to the King, a modest Resident Evil clone that was released in 2000. This game serves as a potential Evil Dead 4, where its plot centers on Ash and his new girlfriend Jenny returning to the cabin for some emotional closure, having spent the last few years trying to recover from the events of the films. Upon returning, Ash's old severed hand reactivates the recording that summons demons, and the nightmare begins again right where it started. I really love the design of the backgrounds in this game, and the fixed camera look. It's cool seeing the cabin from the first 2 movies lovingly rendered in the game with the same layout. So many memories here in all these rooms, some from yet-to-be-released sequels years later even. Ash killed his dad in this bathroom. However, this game's biggest drawback is its combat against the demonic undead. Third-person fixed camera angles a la Resident Evil and Silent Hill don't really translate to satisfying melee combat. It's really difficult to get yourself positioned right to hack and slash at Deadites. There's not really an auto-aim when you shoot at them with guns, leading to some very clumsy enemy encounters. It's not helped by the fact that the enemies respawn infinitely in pretty much every area of the game. You knock them down and they get right back up. You'll be dead by dawn for sure if you don't book it the fuck out of here.
An important mechanic the game refuses to teach the player is how to execute enemies. And executing Deadites is huge. If you don't know how to do this, the game is practically unplayable. I discovered this mechanic completely by accident. Simply hacking and slashing away with your chainsaw or dumping ammo into every Deadite you come across would be a waste of resources. Because these guys seem to eat lead for breakfast. I'm surprised the game doesn't make a showpiece of these executions in the back of the box or something. Because even with its primitive PS1 animations, they look pretty cool. There are unique animations for each weapon, and they're made infinitely more badass when you punctuate them with Ash's dedicated one-liner button.
Come get some.
Much like most horror games from this era, the start of this game is the hardest part when you don't know where to go or what you're doing. You're liable to get your ass kicked a few times until you start finding key items and figuring out where to go. And by figuring it out, I mean looking it up online, because the game's not very good at allowing you to draw your own conclusions about what goes where. Like this stupid hedge maze woods full of skeletons!
The biggest offender is this god-forsaken hedge maze early on in the game. Every time I enter this area, I get turned around and end up my own ass. I guess that's the point of a maze? But man, if it isn't frustrating as hell. The way pre-rendered backgrounds are drawn in this area make it hard to tell what's a wall and what's a passageway you can walk down. There's a map you can pull up at any time, but it doesn't lay out areas in a grid-like format like it would in Resident Evil. It's a hand-drawn map that gives you a general idea of where the different sections of the forest are in relation to one another. So it's not much help here. Not to mention that you have these annoying boneheads chasing you around all the time. I dwell on this one area of the game because I think it makes for a really bad early impression of it. I have a strong feeling that this is just about where most players reach their breakpoint and decide to call it quits.
Yep. Good God, I hate this maze. I hate the skeletons. I am so done. Also, this game doesn't tell you very clearly that the item box is also the save point, so I spent several hours looking for a save point, not realizing I was walking by several of them.
Which is a shame, because once you get past this hurdle, the rest of the game is smooth sailing by comparison. You get to explore more of the woods where you'll find a campground, an unstable mine, and a cemetery, as you collect pages of the Necronomicon after being advised by the local priest. We face off against some varied bosses. They're not challenging by any means, but some of them require you to solve a simple puzzle in order to do damage, which goes a long way. One of them being a possessed Annie Nobi wielding the Kandarian dagger. I wonder how she managed to pull that out of her back. Did she have help? Anyway, it turns out that the priest was actually evil Ash in disguise, who was swindling our strong-jawed hero into gathering the pages for him. He kidnaps Jenny and jumps through a portal with Ash hot on his trail. If re-experiencing the horrors of the cabin wasn't enough, we get to visit medieval times once again. This area is a lot easier to navigate because it's nowhere near as extensive as the woods. Actually, the game starts to feel a lot more linear by this point. It almost feels like the devs were in a rush to wrap things up. Like, the first task here is to lower this bridge. To do so, you'll have to gather pieces of a crank. Again, very Resident Evil. Rather than exploring the environment to track down these pieces, you simply hang by the bridge where skeletons will infinitely spawn and periodically drop the pieces that you need. This is such a bizarre choice that goes completely against what you've come to expect from this game by this point. Since when do regular enemies drop key items? Eventually, you catch up to evil Ash, who intends to sacrifice Jenny to the Dark Ones. Ash gets an upgrade. Man, a buzzsaw? This thing looks dumb, give me the chainsaw back. The final boss fight against evil Ash has two phases, one being a straightforward brawl in his humanoid form, and in the second phase he transforms into a giant scorpion-like deadite. The fight is really easy. All you have to do is hit these pillars, which cause the monster to get stunned, allowing you to do some damage. Using the pages of the Necronomicon, Ash opens a portal that sucks the monster up. With Jenny safe, it's time to hit the dusty trail and open up another portal back home. In classic Evil Dead fashion, the pair end up in a messed up alternate future, where the Necronomicon has been published into a best-selling book, giving the masses easy access to evil forces.
Ash.
What the? Oh no. No! No!
An Evil Dead game in the style of Resident Evil is an idea that sounds awesome on paper, and I do believe there is a good way to execute that premise. Some of the shots from the movie remind me of the fixed camera angles from the Resident Evil games, but being bombarded with deadites every second like this is a hack and slash game does not mix with a game that has tank controls, fixed camera angles, and an emphasis on resource management. If anything, play this game to hear Bruce Campbell reprise his role as Ash.
Welcome to the slightly more realistic land of the PlayStation 2, where characters have segmented fingers and multiple textures, and even sometimes hair that moves. Fistful of Boomstick is Ash's first outing into this generation of consoles, and much like Hail to the King, it picks up with Ash trying to figure out what to do with his life in the wake of the trilogy of movies. This time, instead of having a girlfriend and going back to the cabin, he's drowning his sorrows at a bar in the town of Dearborn, a city composed entirely of bars, strip clubs, and hardware stores. Which does sound like Ash's kind of place. Some jackass at the local TV station plays a recording of some of the passages of the book and summons evil to everyone in town watching the broadcast, like that Creepshow episode with the exact plot in Ted Raimi. Thus begins a semi-open world jaunt into the Evil Dead universe. The combat here is slightly more optimized, but nothing exciting. You get some basic combos with the chainsaw and shovel, and more ammo types for the shotgun. It has more of a Spawn Armageddon feel to it, which is frustrating at times, but still serviceable enough. I'm glad you're in a new location instead of just rehashing the woods and cabin from Hail to the King. However, the city areas in the beginning of the game are unforgivingly confusing to navigate. They're designed like a maze, and there's so few decent landmarks that it's easy to get confused. I wasn't joking when I said there's a strip club and a hardware store every few feet here, and that's, like, certainly pretty novel as a joke, but it hurts the game's playability because now everything here looks the fucking same. I have no landmarks. This game's progression is laid out as a series of fetch quests given to you by NPCs, like go find a police badge so you can fool the cop into letting you pass a security checkpoint, or find a bunch of silver objects to use for a spell to close these portals to hell that are opening up everywhere, or gather these 4-colored crystals to open a door. And while that doesn't sound bad on paper, in execution they're incredibly frustrating because this game has no save stations or item boxes, and again with the infinitely spawning enemies! Deadites once again appear repeatedly in the game's map, no matter how many times you kill them. But to make matters worse, this game can process way more NPCs on screen than a PS1 can, so sometimes you can get jumped by 30 enemies at once. And this game's hack and slashy combat doesn't really give you the upper hand. At least the chainsaw doesn't run out of gas this time. That shouldn't have taken more than one try to nail down. But nearly every enemy encounter involves you getting surrounded and ganged up on, with a moveset that isn't really designed for slashing at like 6 enemies at once. There's a little bit of slash damage, but not enough to keep from getting overwhelmed. This boy needs some Blades of Chaos or something. Plus, the block only protects you from the front, which is useless when most of the enemies are standing behind you as you're targeting only one of them at a time. Just blow them all away with the shotgun, it's not worth the hassle. So much of this boils down to being told to go grab an item, then running around aimlessly in these confusingly laid out areas searching for that item, just to get it and then be told you need the next thing. In a way, this one is also like another Resident Evil clone game, but without any of the subtlety in the design, and it's not brilliant about keeping you on track to the next key item in a clever way. There isn't any backtracking to a previous area with new knowledge or new items. You're just in one massive area that feels like a fucking Mobius strip. Just imagine if you got to the mansion in Resident Evil and there were like 90% less doors and a bunch of scared NPCs standing around telling you what to get instead of just being like sort of obvious through context clues. It doesn't feel like you're figuring out this game and unraveling the puzzle. It just feels like you're being led around on a tight leash and sometimes they choke you with it. Harder, daddy! And this game doesn't have a proper checkpoint or save system either. You have to manually save with limited items, and there's no save station like a typewriter. So sometimes you go long stretches of forgetting to save and then risk losing major swaths of progress. But because they're also limited and you don't have a specific station to remind you to save, you have to be careful not to save too often or save in a spot where you'll end up just getting killed repeatedly because an enemy is secretly right behind you and you didn't see them before saving in the menu. Thankfully, the feeling of being totally lost regresses in the latter half of the game once you get to the museum. It becomes a little more navigable, but not any less tedious. And by this point, you're just so exhausted already that it doesn't help much. And then the solutions to the progression become even more obtuse. Like finding 2 vases to open the secret hatch behind the painting that has a magic proximity detector that leads you to hidden compartments that you need to blow open with a stick of dynamite to reveal a green crystal, but then you also need to find a blue, yellow, and red crystal, and then place them in the right order, and then also the secret compartment is in a Civil War exhibit. On the surface level, this stuff feels like pretty standard survival horror obtuse puzzle solutions, but it's made more tedious by not having a dedicated map to navigate the layout of this place. And also being bombarded with enemies that drain your resources quickly, and then they just don't drop health and ammo frequently enough to compensate. The museum wasn't as hard to explore as the city, but it's where I found myself getting repeatedly stuck because of the just sheer amount of respawning enemies and the amount of running in circles. At one point, I had to just save right before the boss encounter and spend like an hour wandering around using explosives on large hordes of enemies to farm some health and ammo off them. And no, I wasn't wasting the explosives because the only way to beat the boss is to use your shovel to fling this projectile back at him. Something the game has never told you you can do before because none of the other Deadites have projectiles in the game by this point. At least the pre-rendered cutscene looks pretty nice for the time, and Bruce is a solid voice actor, so his performance keeps me engaged because, you know, I like Ash, and yes, I like him enough to bear with the game's bullshit. Then this next section is just so annoying I want to give up. Fuck this stupid maze in the woods, fuck how dark it is, and the fact that I have to just boost the brightness on my TV to see what's going on. Fuck the confusing layout that again has no map to speak of, and fuck how stingy this game is with giving you health items. I'm mad again because of a maze in the woods. I'm seeing a pattern! The town is full of annoying and tedious backtracking because everything is way too far away from each other. Finding hidden items that are a little too well hidden for a main quest objective. And then I create a time paradox by accidentally walking forward a little too far, and these monsters have Ash's ancestor held hostage. Then I lose like 20 minutes of progress because I walked 2 steps in the wrong direction, and I forgot to save, and I will definitely give up here. I don't want to play this game anymore. This game's poo-poo. Diego, you take over.
Okay, you go cool off, X. I know how to handle this baby. So in order to avoid getting your ancestor killed and Marty McFlying yourself out of existence, you have to gather all 5 pieces of a page containing a spell. Yes, another fetch quest. A true soul must embrace death if he is to travel beyond the grave. Whoa, I think this puzzle requires me to kill myself. Okay, I might have read a little too deep into that one. What you're supposed to do is use the Deadite Possession spell, then walk over to this door and you'll be granted access. Admittedly, that's a pretty cool puzzle. I think it's awesome that Ash is able to cast spells as a baked-in game mechanic. There's a strong variation of spells that come in pretty handy when you're surrounded by enemies, and others that give Ash a temporary buff. Like this one that quite literally makes him buff and adds an extra foot to his height. That spell should be a hit with the ladies. But if I'm being honest, I didn't make much use of them throughout my playthrough, unless it was absolutely necessary to solve a puzzle. I never bothered to memorize the button combinations needed to cast them, and going back and forth between gameplay and these slow menus brings the game's pacing to a screeching halt. I wish that I could switch between spells through an inventory wheel I can easily pull up. With all 5 pieces of the spell tome now collected, we head back to Eldridge. He uses the spell to hightail it out of there through a vortex and leaves our ancestor, the blacksmith, held hostage by these BBDs, big beautiful deadites. Luckily, we have our new learned spell that allows us to possess these monsters, and we free the blacksmith. I love the banter between these two Williamses. Time travel is an element that's sort of been a mainstay of the Evil Dead franchise ever since Evil Dead 2, and I love the idea of Ash interacting with his ancestors. Putting 2 charismatic personalities in the same space makes for some fun dialogue. Big props to the voice actor who plays the blacksmith. They could have easily just gotten Bruce Campbell to voice his ancestor as well, just with a slightly different accent or cadence. But this guy, whoever he is, I couldn't tell you because the game's credits don't bother to show you which character the voice actors are playing, and IMDb wasn't much help. This guy does a good job of bringing that trademark Williams wit to his character. So, shout out to you, whoever you are. Hot on Eldridge's trail, we end up in Dearborn, Michigan, 1863. During the middle of a civil war, Eldridge holds himself up behind an impenetrable fort. We're gonna need the help of the feuding Unionists and Confederates to get through it. We pick up a sword, adding another weapon to our impressively expanding arsenal. In order to get into town, we're gonna need to present some identification, and this S-Mart badge that has been taking up space in our inventory since the very beginning of the game finally has some use. It's here that we meet the next descendant of the Williams family tree. He's a general for the Union Army, and he advises us of a family heirloom the old blacksmith left for us in preparation for this very moment. Woohoo, mama, now we're cooking with gas. This Gatling gun is hands down my favorite weapon in this game. Mowing down hordes of deadites with this baby feels just right. After closing up a couple of vortexes and convincing the two armies to cease fire, we storm the fort and prepare to confront Eldridge. What follows is what I consider to be the game's best boss fight. After seemingly being shot dead, Eldridge transforms into a giant two-armed deadite. Unlike some of the previous boss fights, your means of doing damage are very obvious here, thanks to these conveniently laid out explosive barrels. I like that the camera is pulled back far enough to give you a clear view of the arena, and this big space is a great setting for a boss fight. Overall, just a tightly designed boss. After defeating the ugly son of a bitch, we end up in a twisted present time where deadites have taken over and enslaved humanity. So we kinda get to see that alternate ending of Army of Darkness that the studio thought was too depressing. Come on, where's your sense of schadenfreude? Did I pronounce that right? Cool post-apocalyptic aesthetics aside, this level sucks hard. Remember that cool puzzle from before where we needed to possess a deadite in order to open a door? They bring that back for this level, but there's an obnoxious amount of emphasis on it. You have to do it like 4 times, and you have to be a specific type of deadite for each door. You gotta make sure that you don't mess up and deplete your mana, because then you'll find yourself running around scrounging for whatever bit of magic energy enemies drop. You know that system Resident Evil 4 has? The one that makes enemies drop whatever resources you're in need of, so you always feel like you have just enough to get by and not get stuck? Yeah, that ain't here. So after dealing with that, collecting some runes needed to open a door, and saying the magic words, we confront the Deadite Queen responsible for this mess. Who could this queen be, I hear you ask? It's the one prominent lady character this game has. Trish. What a twist. Ash just can't catch a break with the ladies. This final boss fight is really underwhelming. All you gotta do is dodge these barf balls until you see an opening and chuck a dynamite stick out her mouth. Child's play. But I do like this animation of the Deadite Queen ballooning up when she swallows the dynamite. It is very Looney Tunes-like. But defeating the big final monster just isn't enough. In true Evil Dead fashion, Ash finds himself in another hairy situation. In an attempt to open a portal back home, he winds up in feudal Japan, where he's been recounting his story to Japanese Emperor Kameyama, who's wielding the Kandarian summoning stones and intends to use their power against Khan. The evil force crashes the party, and Ash takes the opportunity to grab a katana, kill the now possessed samurai, and in perfect Japanese,
Shinikate. Sukojitoryo.
Groovy.
Not bad for a complete moron. Evil Dead Fistful of Boomstick is in this awkward spot where it's trying to be both an action game and puzzle exploration game. Sadly, it doesn't excel in either department. The combat system is decent and there are a healthy amount of weapons to choose from, but getting through large groups of enemies feels more like a chore because Ash's attacks don't feel like they were designed to handle these many enemies at once. While there are a few clever puzzles, they were held back by the aimless wandering I found myself doing so often. This game desperately needs a map, especially in a game where environments are indistinguishable from one another. We need an Evil Dead game that sticks to nailing one major component. The first tried to be Resident Evil, and this one is somewhere between Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. I think we're getting closer.
That's my sister, you sick fuck!
Hey, listen. I know why Kenneth King wasn't in church today.
Why?
Because his daughter disappeared.
Jessica? What do you mean she disappeared?
Well, Kenneth woke up this morning. Jessica wasn't there. Bed wasn't even slept in. He's thinking she ran off. I know her and Wayne were supposed to be getting married, back in June? Maybe she got cold feet. Oh, hey, we're here.
Huh? Guys, what the hell happened here?
I've gotta pee. Is there a bathroom anywhere?
You guys gotta get us out of here. There's something in those trees, and it ain't no man.
We're done with that. Stop that.
Sorry. But there's evil in this place, and the Delta won't start.
I don't think that's a sign of evil. Our Delta wouldn't start either.
I guess that's what we get for driving 45-year-old cars. What have you guys been up to all night?
Playing games and shooting at scary noises. I think we'll be okay if we stop playing these.
Hey, this one has Ted Raimi in it.
No!
Oh my god, I already like this one so much more. They stopped trying to make it a Resident Evil game and decided to just make a Devil May Cry game instead.
That's what we've been waiting for!
It's what we wanted all along!
This one immediately discounts continuity with the other games and just picks up right after the movies with Ash in a mental asylum after not being able to properly explain to the authorities why his friends were cut into a million pieces with a chainsaw grafted to his self-mutilated body. The TV series would also kind of gloss over how he got out of that one. Ash's belongings, including the Necronomicon, end up in the hands of the asylum's evil warden, and he begins experimenting with it to create all kinds of nasty interdimensional terrors. It's kind of like The Suffering if you're old enough to remember that game. Right away, I have to praise this game's graphics and cutscenes. This looks really clean for a PS2 game, and I love the look of these models and environments. Plus, the cutscenes have some really fun, stylish, and energetic direction that captures that Raimi-esque feel. Bruce's performance here is the strongest of the three games, and the story is just so much fun. This is like my dream Evil Dead game. Where has this one been all my life?
Listen up, Shake and Bake. I eat evil for breakfast and danger for dinner, so spread the word. Ash is back in business.
And to top it all off, you get Sam, a half-deadite, wisecracking sidekick that's unkillable. You can punt him into a wood chipper and watch his unwilling regeneration over and over. But Sam is useful for helping Ash find the locations of the breaches between the world of the living and the dead and sealing them up. He's voiced by the legendary Ted Raimi, who you may know from like the 5 or so characters he played in the series. Or Hoffman from Spider-Man. Or that guy in Candyman. Or maybe you know him from The Quarry, because that game is really popular right now, and he's pretty good in it. Either way, I'm stoked to have him here. He livens things up by giving Ash a sidekick that's also jokey and sarcastic to match wits with. But, like, isn't going to die at the 30-minute mark of the movie due to their actor wanting to quit.
The little guy's inclusion really makes regeneration stand out from any other game, movie, or comic book in the franchise. His over-the-top personality forces Ash to be the straight man for a change. Due to the game's, video gamey nature, the slapstick comedy is at an all-time high. The duo, well, mostly Sam, is constantly put through the ringer. The physical humor is the highlight of the game's story. Otherwise, you have what is a straightforward Evil Dead plot. Professor Nobi makes a surprising but welcome return and acts as a ghostly tour guide as our heroes embark on a journey where they must close off portals that are trying to invade the peaceful town. Been there, done that. But it won't be so straightforward. The portals are guarded by big, gross, monstrous faces known as Soul Eaters. And the only way to get past them is by completing escort missions, where Sam absorbs a Deadite spirit and must carry it over to the Soul Eater to incapacitate it. This is the common through line in all the levels of EDR. You'll slash and blast your way through hordes of Deadites as they try to stop Sam from carrying out his task. This can be frustrating at times because if Sam bites the dust, it won't be game over, but you'll have to make your way all the way back to the spirit's spawn point. And, you know, nobody likes tedium. Thankfully, the combat here is the most enjoyable of these olden Evil Dead games. You'll mix light and heavy attacks, juggle enemies, and there's plenty of boomstick to go around for everyone on account of unlimited ammo. Of course, no DMC clone is complete without some sort of rage mode. Ash is able to tap into his bad side to deal extra damage without completely losing control. On the other side of the Soul Eaters resides one of the portals, but they're guarded by a boss character. These are pretty easy to kill, but they each have a cool and unique design. One of my favorite features of these games has been all the different attachments you can find for Ash's arm. The highlight here is the harpoon gun. I'll let it speak for itself. While all this is going on, things take a turn for the worst, and Sally, Ash's lawyer, gets kidnapped by the Dark Ones for Professor Reinhardt, and will now be acting as a sacrifice in turn for godlike powers. This puts a press on matters. While Sam is reciting an incantation to close one of the portals, he flubs it, and this causes the portal to suck the two into a hellish dimension. I guess he learned from the best. After battling our way through this heavy metal infused realm, we confront Dr. Nutjob, who's gone full Deadite and officially broke the meter on the ugly scale. Pro tip, make sure your health is topped off before starting this boss fight. There are no health drops here, and if you're not well prepared, you can end up getting stuck and will have to resort to loading an older save. With the final portal closed off and Sally back in safe hands, it's time to pack up and... Oh, wait a minute. This is an Evil Dead game. Of course we have to end on a downer. I do wonder where the other end of that portal led to. Having Ash as the star of a character action game is a no-brainer given his arsenal. The chainsaw hand and boomstick combo was instantly iconic, but flailing the chainsaw around in live action always came off as a bit awkward and impractical.
They're just too damn heavy. So,
But this is where video games come in and turn things up to 11. You feel like a true badass in Evil Dead Regeneration, with all the different attacks you can pull off with your chainsaw and all of Ash's other attachments. I was not expecting to like Sam as much as I did. These two have a fun dynamic, even though it makes Ash come off as very one-note. Not that he's ever been the deepest character, but in this game, he's just the annoyed, cranky guy throughout the majority of the game, and just rips on Sam along their journey. He does start to come around at the very last moments of the story though, and I would love to see more of these two in a comic book or something like that. Fun combat, witty banter, and most of all, Ted and Bruce as a dynamic duo makes Regeneration a must-play for Evil Dead fans.
Hey, so like, you notice how all of the games so far have had a featuring the voice of Bruce Campbell on the box? That's important because his inclusion really legitimizes any Evil Dead project, even if he's only there for like a tiny bit, you know? Ash isn't Ash without Bruce. So anyway, this game made the horrible mistake of including Ash, and he sounds like this.
No, it's a cookbook. Of course it's the Necronomicon. Now, let's play.
Ugh. Telltale's Poker Night is a poker game if you're into that, but they have licensed characters stand in for the players and unique banter between them during matches. If you ever wanted to hear Brock from the Venture Brothers crack some jokes at Claptrap from Borderlands or GLaDOS from Portal, well, all of them have their actual voice actors, so I don't know why they cheaped out here.
Crazy like a few dabs of burning hydrocarbons behind the audio sensors. Oh yeah!
Plus, Ash just kind of looks weird in this art style. Like, I know you can do a kind of cartoony cel-shaded Ash and it would look pretty good because he's just got such exaggerated, like, cartoony features, but why does this look wrong? Kind of nuts that this and Until Dawn were so close and yet so far on that title. Okay, so Bruce is voicing Ash here. Already got the points for that. His design is based on the TV show, making this the first video game incarnation of the El Jefe version of the character, along with some fun Easter eggs from the series like his hand puppet and the new metal hand made for him by Pablo. Ash's quips are pretty good when you get to hear them. Groovy. But we run into a problem with this game. Ash is helpless and spends 90% of his time in this game just moaning in agony and pain after being injured by big scary monsters that he can't battle. I'm not super in love with this game. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely understand why Dead by Dawn is as popular as it is and why so many people find it so appealing. It's a stark contrast with other horror games where you're not necessarily on even footing with the monsters and demons, but you at least have the means to overpower them and survive. The helplessness is unique in this game. The developers wanted you to take a stealthy route or play more defensively instead of offensively. I understand all of this. Dead by Daylight is also a really cool celebration of the slasher horror genre by including so many horror icons and giving them unique gameplay features true to their roots. but for me personally, this game feels like trying to use a computer from 1999. You go over and click on something, and then you just watch a progress bar fill up. And then it's just loading, and loading, and loading, and then after that, you finally get to the next thing, and then you click on it, and then it's just loading, and loading, and loading, but you can't fall asleep during this process, so the computer sometimes asks if you're still there, and if you don't click yes in time, a short electric shock comes out of your mouse and tases you until your fingers are numb. And occasionally a guy will walk up and then jerk you away from the computer and put your ass on a meat hook like Leatherface. Sometimes it actually is Leatherface. And while the guest characters as killers are all awesome, the survivors pose a huge problem for me. Having characters like Laurie Strode, Leon Kennedy, and yes, Ash Williams in this game, and then treating them like helpless babies incapable of raising a fist in self-defense drives me fucking crazy! A pretty huge chunk of these survivors are not characters that would stealth around and try to find their way out. Ash, even at his weakest in Evil Dead 1, wasn't this much of a pansy. He was smashing Linda's head with a wooden log! Being so defenseless as some of these characters causes a lot of frustration for me, and I would rather just play another horror game where I can see the same characters in their element being able to, like, punch the forces of evil square in the chops instead of crying and pissing their pants. If you wanted this to be true to the character, it should have been Ash as a killer wandering around the woods with a chainsaw hand, and the matches with him in them would put a special voice filter and texture change on the survivor character models to make them into deadites, running in terror as he's trying to hack them down or slam them onto hooks. You know, like that other game. That's enough evil for one night.
Get the hot glue gun. And a montage.
What the hell is this thing? How am I supposed to do anything with this?
It's practical.
Practical for what?
We are the things that were. It shall be again. Join us. Why wasn't I given any speaking lines, brother?
Seems pretty practical for that.
You guys even put gas in this thing?
Dude, did you know there was an Evil Dead mobile game?
No?
There are some games that not even the powerful dark magic of the Necronomicon or Kandarian Dagger can pull from the ghastly depths of the delisted mobile games graveyard. Well, maybe emulation, but we don't resort to such unethical practices here. We just steal the footage from someone else's channel. So let's pay our respects to the fallen and go over the long gone Evil Dead mobile games. First up is Army of Darkness Defense. This game encapsulates the climax of the third movie in the franchise and adapts it into a tower defense game. That's pretty much what Ash and the townsfolk were doing in the third act of AOD, so yeah, this adds up. The mechanics here are very simple. Ash automatically shoots at any deadites coming his way. All you have to worry about is navigating him, activating special attacks like this extra powerful boomstick blast, and summoning peasants and knights to aid you in battle. As long as you have the resources. In between waves, you can spend your hard-earned gold on more troops, upgrades for Ash himself, or a health increase for the castle you're defending. Hearing sound bites from the movie is amusing when contrasted against the cartoony art style. Ash looks like he belongs in the Marvel superhero squad here. Mom, I want Evil Dead the game. We have Evil Dead the game at home, sweetie. In all seriousness, this cute chibi style retelling of the first movie looks really charming. The gang's all here. Cheryl, Linda, and Scotty will accompany you as you platform, shoot, and chop your way through the dreaded woods in this top-down action-adventure game.
It was the woods themselves. They're alive, Ashley. The trees.
I don't want to picture what that scene would look like in this seemingly kid-friendly mobile game. Endless runners were once a big thing in the mobile game space, and Evil Dead took a piece of the pie while it was hot. Evil Dead Endless Nightmare is based on the 2013 reboot. You play as the handsome guy from that movie.
Why don't you come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy?
Hey, the kids, Mia. Think of the kids. What separates this endless runner from most is that you're free to run in any direction you want. You'll be swarmed with hordes of deadites. Your goal is to complete side tasks, collect drops of blood you can spend on weapons and upgrades, and to last as long as you can.
10 seconds! I lasted longer when I fucked you!
The kids, Mia. I like that the weapons you can buy from the shop are conventional tools like a nail gun and a simple box cutter. It embraces the traditional household and makeshift weapons the Evil Dead franchise is known for. I was not expecting to be talking about Family Guy of all things in an Evil Dead retrospective, but here we are. Family Guy: The Quest for Stuff is a mobile game that appears to be solely designed to pass the time while you're in the John. Quahog has been brought to ruins after another one of Peter's extensive brawls against the giant chicken. Now it's up to you to rebuild the town in your vision. You'll complete all sorts of tasks in exchange for coins that you can spend on resources for your version of Quahog. Like many free-to-play games, there's a shop that features premium items that can be purchased through microtransactions. One of them being Ash Williams, who was added during the seasonal event The Haunting, way back in October of 2016. He comes equipped with nightlights that can be used to paralyze boogeymen that spawn during this event. You can always count on Ash to come well equipped to fight monsters. But this isn't better than the time Ash dropped in Tilted Towers with the Predator and Spider-Man.
When is Ash Williams coming to Fortnite?
Nah, he doesn't need Fortnite.
Yeah, this one counts too. We covered the Family Guy mobile game. We're leaving no stone unturned. It's a skin you can buy in the game's item shop, but I did want to give them props for a really cool recreation of the cabin that's currently on the island out in the woods. Instantly dating this video. When you get there, random zombie enemies spawn and attack you, and Ash is there in the cabin to give you some unique bits of dialogue depending on what skin you're wearing. Plus, you can buy a shotgun from him for some gold bars. They didn't have to go as detailed as they did with this cabin location, but I think it's really cool that they did. And Ash's special emote in this exact spot is a pretty cool sight to see. Unlike most Evil Dead games, you can actually go down into the fruit cellar here. You can go loot a chest and explore around. It's a neat little addition to the current season of Fortnite. You should check it out before it's gone. Oh, and if you get the Ash skin, be sure to use my creator code, XavierGM. It helps me out a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Unless you're watching this video a year from now, in which case you missed the boat on going to the cabin, but, that's how I feel about the Deadpool Battle Pass skin in this game. It's kind of refreshing to have a game with so little permanence built into it. It teaches you that not everything lasts forever. Some experiences are meant to be finite blinks of time, never to be repeated. Except hitting the gritty, that's eternal.
Now, swallow your soul! Come down here, let me suck your cock, pretty boy. I'm gonna shove a shotgun up your ass, Diego. I promise we'll be good. When I drive you to hell with the I'm gonna take it.
Maybe we can summon some help with this. There's a page here about a chosen one. Maybe he knows how to defeat the evil.
This guy. Campbell. That has to be him, right? Man, this handwriting sucks. Klaatu Verata Nisto? Or is that a C? Briscoe County Jr.
Brother?
Wrong on both accounts. Though you do have a pretty strong jawline.
I don't know. This guy looks too young to be Campbell. Are you sure it's the right guy?
It's A. Campbell.
That's what it says in all the legal documents. A. Campbell. But Xavier, Diego, looks like you guys are in a bit of a jam, huh?
Did your dad ever teach you anything about slaying demons?
Can't say it ever really came up during dad talk. But I have been playing a ton of the new Evil Dead game, and boys, let me tell you, it'll teach you a thing or two about cutting down the undead and whooping on some deadites, you know what I'm saying? Check it out! Alright, gentlemen, just make sure to close the book gently on your way out, will ya?
Ow! What did I just say?
Saber Games did the impossible. The mad sons of bitches actually managed to get every Evil Dead installment under one roof for the first time ever. When I played this game earlier in the year before the release, I met some of the developers behind the scenes and they told me what a daunting task this was to pull together. Let me just break down how much of an accomplishment this is if you're not in the know. The reason continuity is so loose in this franchise is because every single Evil Dead thing has been produced by a different studio, and as such is technically owned by a different group of people. Evil Dead 2 was supposed to start with a recap of footage from the first movie, with the final shot of the previous film leading right into this one. But Sam Raimi and company couldn't get the license to use the footage from Evil Dead 1, their own movie, and had to reshoot all of that and simplify it to the most important elements, which is why Linda is the only one at the cabin with him this time. She's the only one that appears in the plot of Evil Dead 2. Ideally, these two movies would flow into each other perfectly, if not for the weird rights bullshit. And because Army of Darkness was at a third studio, they had to do the same thing all over again. Then the TV show, which was at a fourth company, could only use footage and concepts from the first two movies, which is why they played it pretty coy about ever mentioning events from Army of Darkness until much later in the show. And that's not even mentioning the remake. That means in order to have this image before you, of all four versions of Ash side by side, this game developer had to make calls to like a dozen different people at all these different companies and go through all the red tape and legal shenanigans to get the license to use all of this. It may seem paltry at first glance that it's just four different Ashes next to each other, but this is the result of some serious fan dedication on the part of the developers. And the fact that they went so far as to get the remake characters too when they didn't even need to is just so fucking cool. It's all here. If there's anything I can say about this game above all else, it's that the people who made it are clearly really huge fans of the franchise and did their research. There are a ton of little nods and references in the gameplay and the multiplayer maps to deep cuts from the series. They got as many returning cast members and likenesses as they could for the playable characters, and playing this game just feels like watching an Evil Dead movie. All the gratuitous blood, badass kills, and snappy one-liners you could want. All the characters are fully voiced, too. You can just have a squad of all Ashes fighting an evil Ash as the demon player. Ashes all around. I also played this game with Bruce Campbell one time, so there's even more Ash in that round. Ashplosion! There's a whole video about how that went, you can check it out after this one if you're curious. Bruce was clearly tired of watching stupid YouTubers play this game by that point, because he was doing it for like 6 hours that day, but he was still super cool to all of us, and it was a great time. And he honored my request from many years ago. Be more mean to me. Yeah. Despite all that, I'll still be as fair as I can to this game and not let my fanboyism color this review. That being said, I do really like this game, despite being fed up with the genre it's in. Okay, so my big problem with a lot of the asymmetrical horror multiplayer genre is that playing as the human survivor is typically so punishing and so unfair that it's almost pointless to play it. These games tend to have such a horrible disadvantage for the human team that it can be hard to find it fun at times when you're just getting repeatedly beaten into the ground by the overpowered monsters and killers. This game may be the first of its genre to explore the concept. What if the survivors didn't suck ass at everything ever? And as such, you can pick up guns and use weapons. Things that Ash Williams does. Evil Dead 2022's major standout factor for me is that it just has satisfying melee combat. The feedback on these weapons is great. I actually feel like a physical threat to the Deadites, and not like I'm just breaking my fists over a brick wall. Like, I can actually kick some ass in this game. Getting overwhelmed by 10 enemies at once? You can beat them all without taking any damage if you're quick enough on the controls. This is the best Evil Dead combat so far. The chainsaw and kill animations are so fun, and having the ability to aim and shoot in a third-person over-the-shoulder angle is a real game changer. I know all this shit is standard in games now, but after coming off of several PS2 games, this is a massive leap. I have been drowning trying to get my fix of good Deadite killing mechanics. You have a team of 4 playing as various protagonists from across the entire franchise, running around a massive map to find the Kandarian dagger, to destroy the Necronomicon, and defeat the Dark Ones who wrote it. those characters being here is pretty cool because they've only ever been briefly mentioned in previous entries in the series. On the other side, one player can choose a specific Deadite character from the series to spawn as and torture the human players. The demon can lay traps, spawn enemies, possess Deadites, possess vehicles, possess players, and even appear as a boss character like Henrietta, Evil Ash, or Elagos from the TV show. This game is a ton of fun to play with friends, and thankfully a lot of my friends are also die-hard Evil Dead fans. That all being said, I would have vastly preferred a single-player story-based game. I know, I'm a broken record in the fruit cellar. I said the same thing about playing as the Predator in Hunting Grounds. The gameplay is solid, I just want a more linear and focused experience with that same gameplay as a base. But unlike Predator Hunting Grounds, this game partially delivers on that with a whole bunch of solo missions with unique objectives. These don't really have cutscenes or unique dialogue in most cases, but it's something to help scratch that itch a little bit. Like a story mission where you're essentially reenacting scenes from Evil Dead 2 just in gameplay form and fighting off Deadites in the woods while Linda's severed head taunts you. This stuff wasn't 100% necessary to add, but I do appreciate the hell out of it because it keeps me content enough in my single-player survival horror cravings. However, these single-player missions are pretty brutally difficult when you don't have any backup. Well, maybe difficult isn't the right word. I would say tedious, because some of them are so long and don't have checkpoints. This Pablo mission requires you running all over the map for like 20 minutes doing all these different fetch quests, getting bombarded with enemies on one health bar. If there was just a checkpoint halfway through, it'd be so much easier, but everyone I know who plays this game has told me that they really just did not like doing this mission. I just feel like they could be a little bit less punishingly long in some cases. And it kind of sucks because, like, you have to play them to unlock all the characters, so strap in and get used to it. While there aren't a lot of them, these multiplayer maps are a lot of fun to explore. I really love just how massive these locations are and how easy it would be to get lost in them if not for the map and objectives keeping you on track. I don't want to get lost on accident, but if I get lost on purpose because the level is fun to look around, then that's a different story. This also has to be the greatest recreation of the cabin in a game so far. It's accurate down to every last nail in the walls, and ironically, you don't even need to spend that much time here in most matches.
Exploring these beautifully crafted levels is a delight, but wander off too far and you'll be sure to have your soul swallowed. Teamwork is key in this game. Sticking together as you collect pages of the Necronomicon is the only way to stand a chance against the demon player. Spend too much time alone in the woods and your fear meter will increase, leaving you open to possessions. There are ways to slow down the rate at which your fear increases, obviously spending quality time with your fellow survivors, but also lighting up campfires and using your flashlight in dark areas. Keep in mind that both are limited. You'll need to have matchsticks in your inventory to light the campfires, and your flashlight can run out of juice. This, along with the need to keep an eye on your ammo count and health items, put an emphasis on survival horror elements in a game I was expecting to be predominantly action-oriented. Which, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of that, but if you don't take the time to make pit stops at cabins, shops, and houses to scrounge for supplies, you'll be at a severe disadvantage, especially late in the game when the demon player has only gotten stronger. Having a well-balanced team is also a big factor in ensuring your survival. Characters are divided into classes. You have your damage-dealing warriors like Henry the Red, leaders that give your teammates buffs, long-range specialists known as hunters, and support characters that are in charge of keeping your teammates healed and can help with managing everyone's fear levels. Each character has a skill tree for you to dig into and pick out which perks best fit your playstyle. I find that having Cheryl in your team is a huge leg up. Her healing AoE is a literal lifesaver during these late game phases when things get really dicey.
This game's not without its flaws though, and the developers who worked on it and are watching this video, just know that this is tough love. I'm only telling you this for your own good because I love you and I know you can do better. The vehicles fucking suck in this game. The driving is so jerky and hard to control, and the car breaks apart and craps out at the drop of a hat. It's like passing over a gravel road is liable to make your engine disintegrate. God help you if you accidentally bump a fence post in this thing, or AAA is not picking your stupid cyborg ass up. One of these solo missions revolves entirely around you driving around the car, and it breaks every 5 seconds! This game's also kind of buggy sometimes. Like this one time I got a bug where I wasn't able to, like, fight. Like, my triggers just stopped working. I wasn't able to punch or kick or do anything. And so I became a liability to the team, and that was pretty horrible. I think in my mind, this can be the last asymmetrical multiplayer game based on an 80s horror franchise. Friday the 13th was a first try, Dead by Daylight got really popular, Predator Hunting Grounds is pretty cool, and this one is like everything I would want from that premise for a game. I do really like this one. After this, I want to go back to making more of whatever the hell Alien Isolation was, because that was great! But on the horizon, we still have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, which seems a little redundant given Leatherface is already in Dead by Daylight. I think there's a Ghostbusters game doing this shit now. And of course, everyone's favorite, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Good fucking luck with that one. I'm sure all the Killer Clowns Ultra fans who are in their 50s will definitely keep that game's servers up and alive for the foreseeable future. I think Evil Dead stands out among the rest that feel either not really that fun for me or just seem like they're trying to cash in on a trend by grabbing some random IP that can fit the mold of this style of game. In a really saturated and at times frustrating subgenre of gaming, Evil Dead is the one that I can get the most enjoyment out of, and this game is absolutely a love letter to the fans. And I hope this one stays around for a long time with new content and updates coming out, because there's actually a lot of material for them to keep pulling from. You could add like Ruby and Ball. You could put Ted Raimi in the game. I think they were saying they're going to do that. They could put more maps based on the TV show. You could put that Bob Ross guy from the Creepshow episode in. That would be pretty funny. I don't know who you'd have to talk to about getting the rights for that character. Oh yeah, there's Evil Dead Rises coming out soon. You could fucking throw some shit in there from that. I have 1.5 days.
Yeah, not a chance.
Don't worry, I'll do it.
Xavier, I think you probably got about the only chance of winning this.
Don't fuck it up. 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 Don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up!
I think we defeated the evil.
Oh God, how do you stop it?
Thanks for watching, y'all. Make sure to sub to Xavier and Diego for more fun content like this. I'm Andy Campbell. You can find me at Andy Campbell GG on Twitch, YouTube, and all other social media. Have a groovy day.
Hey, thank you for watching. I just wanted to give a big shout out and thank you to everyone who helped put this video together. It's been a labor of love. We've been working on it for close to a year, and I'm so glad it's finally out. A big thank you to Andy Campbell for appearing in this video. It really meant a lot to us. We're all big fans. He's a super cool guy. Thank you so much to Diego for, of course, co-writing the reviews with me and then also helping to edit those. James and Maddie from Watchtower Database are the best ever. Thanks so much to both of them for appearing in the video, and also to James for helping with the VFX stuff. That meant the world to us. Molly did amazing on the storyboards. I'm going to put those up on Patreon at some point soon. Jacob was, of course, super heavily involved in the props and costumes and editing and color correction and all sorts of different parts of the production. He was super helpful the whole way through. Thank you so much to my dad for putting up with us filming in your basement and helping to direct all of the live action stuff. And of course, our pals over at the Good Boys, Gwen and Khalil. You guys are awesome. Ben really came through, helping us get a few extra shots of the Gmod background for the final bit of the video. He's the best. And of course, thanks to War Planet Online for helping us keep the lights on and sponsoring this video. See you next time!